Okay, howdy everyone, and welcome back to the Developer Student Club, or maybe just welcome if you're joining us for the first time. I see that a lot of new people are here, so we just want to take maybe 5 minutes in the beginning to talk a little bit about who we are and what we do, and then we'll jump right into the panel. So this is our Internships 101 event. We're actually doing this event for the very first time, and it's going to be a panel of some really, really cool people who have interned at some amazing places, and we'll be learning about their experiences. Before that, just a little bit about developer student clubs in general. So we are the local A&M chapter of actually a global organization known as the Google Developer Student Clubs. And these clubs they just open in a bunch of universities where people or like students get together in communities to learn about Google technologies and work on projects that will help the people around them. So it's just to a local community. It can be a nonprofit or it can be a local business. This is a program, like I said, run by Google. Currently, there are 1,200 plus chapters all across the world, and we're one of them. In order to become a member of the club, there are literally no requirements. Students from all majors and all class years are welcome to join. Even grad students are welcome to join, and there is no membership fee. So if you're interested in more events like this, definitely make sure that you enroll as a member. Just a little bit about what kind of events we do here. So the first kind of event that we do is hands-on workshops. So last semester we did some amazing workshops on TensorFlow, which was actually led by a Google developer expert. And also there was also one on Flutter, which helps students learn about app development. Another event that we do is Study Jam. So if you've attended a Study Jam before, it's a 3 to 4 hour long event where you come in and you work on some interactive labs about a specific technology and you get experience with it. And then at the end of the Study Jam, there's like mini competitions or a challenge that you can compete in for some exciting prizes. So definitely be on the lookout for our next Study Jam. The third kind of events that we do is we bring in people from the industry or maybe other DSCs. Like this is a global community, so we bring in other people to talk about their experiences and the kind of projects that they work on and the work they do. And the last type of events, which is actually the category under which today's event falls, is community building and career prep events. So like last semester, we did resume reviews and some social events where people just hopped on Zoom and played Among Us for 1 hour. And today's panel also falls under this category. So in order to join, it's very easy. We have a mailing list and a Slack, and the links are there. This is where we like send out announcements about our upcoming events and we share updates. So please make sure that you join our mailing list and our Slack just to stay updated. We can go to the next slide. So I just want to talk real quick about some exciting opportunities that we have for you starting now, right at this moment. So we have 3 announcements to make. The first one is projects. So like I said, DSCs in general are focused on building solutions to problems that the local community faces. And so you can work on a project that will solve a problem, and then you can submit it to this really, really cool annual competition that is hosted by Google known as the Solution Challenge. And we will help you work on your project, and we'll make sure that once you register for it, you have access to resources and mentorship from Googlers all around like throughout the process. So if you have an idea for a cool project that you want to work on, and maybe you want to work on it with the team, you don't have to work on it alone. But if you don't have your team right now, don't stress out. All you have to do is submit your idea to us at that link, text.ax/DSC pitch, and we will help you find a team, and we will make sure that you have access to all the resources and mentorship that I talked about. And there's a little section in the form which will ask you that if you're interested in participating in the solution challenge. So there are some requirements for that. Make sure that you read about those at this link. And also we will be sending out the slide deck in our Slack. So make sure that you join our Slack for that. The deadline for this form is Wednesday, February 10th. That is the meeting. That is the Wednesday after our next meeting. So make sure that you get your application in before that. The next announcement that we have is about a partner project with a nonprofit organization. So we have partnered with Wienerspiel to Wienerspiel is basically a nonprofit that supports neglected and homeless animals, and also they also support other organizations with the same mission. And in very layman's terms, we will be developing a social media tool which will facilitate their marketing strategies. We talked in depth about this project at our last meeting, which was last week, kind of like an informational. And we have the slide deck to that in our Slack. So if you want to read up more on it, make sure to go back to our Slack and read up about it. But one thing that I want to highlight real quick is that this project is a great opportunity for you to work on something that has real world applications. Like once you build this project, you're guaranteed that this will actually be used in the real world by a nonprofit that's supporting us. And a bonus point is that you can submit this project to the solution challenge. So not only do you get to work on something that's really cool, but you also get to compete for some exciting prizes at the solution challenge. So again, you can just express your interest here by going on to this link, and the deadline is the same as the project's deadline. And the last quick announcement is about our think tank. So, think tank is again a great place for people who have specialized knowledge in a particular technology or in a particular domain to just kind of showcase their talent. It's a resume booster. You get a chance to give workshops on a topic that you're passionate about and share your expert advice with our projects. And we currently have a few think tank members, but we're still in need of more, especially those with web development experience. So if you're interested, definitely apply. It's a very quick survey at that link. And there is actually no deadline for this application. We will be accepting applications on a rolling basis throughout the semester. And then we will be inviting you for interviews depending on the response that we get. So that's it about the announcements. And jumping in, let's first meet the panelists. So, first up, we have Dan.
Okay. Hey, everyone. My name is Dan. I'm a computer science major, class of 22. And this year, I'm taking the whole year off of school as a gap year to intern at Facebook, Apple, and Google. Last summer, I was a step intern at Google. And the year before that, I worked at NASA, all as software engineering roles. Outside of school, I'm on the Datathon team. Yeah, that's it for me.
Awesome. Okay. Next up, Dylan.
Hey everyone, my name's Dylan. Over the summer, I interned with software.com as a software engineering intern. And software is it's a startup over in San Francisco. And yeah, I'm a computer engineering major. I'm a senior. And yeah, I also lead a undergraduate research team in the aerospace department.
Interesting. Okay. Samarth.
Hey guys, I'm Samarth. Before I introduce myself more though, I just want to say I'm on the Datathon team as well, and we're looking for talented organizers right now to help us make our event. So if you want to join, just go to tamidatathon.com/join. All majors are welcome, so we would love for you to play. Yeah, outside of that, I interned last year at Capital One, and hopefully I get my owl from Hogwarts, but if that doesn't work out, I'll be interning at Uber and Facebook this year.
Okay. Next up, Shrey.
Hey guys, Shrey here. I'm also the vice president and head of the think tank for the DSC, so please do apply. I'm a computer engineering major, graduating 2021, so this semester. I also did intern at software.com with Dylan in 2020, and I was there before in 2019 as well. With that, I was also a fellow at a venture capital fund in San Francisco called 8VC. I forgot to mention that on the slide, but I was there as well. And before that, I was at a consulting company in Dallas called DFW Consulting, helped them make apps for AT&T and the stadium in Dallas.
All right. And Tony.
Hi, my name is Tony. I'm in UCET class of 21. Last summer, sadly, I did Amazon remotely, so I couldn't see Seattle in the summer. And the summer before that, I literally went everywhere, American Airlines. If you're going to ask me a question, you might as well just ask me about American Airlines. Everybody who knows me knows that I won't shut up about it. Other like resume padding stuff. I used to play Ultimate Frisbee. I like dogs and cats. I volunteered for a while. Yeah, and there's my LinkedIn, I guess, if you want to know more about that.
All right. That's it with the introductions. And now we're going to jump in with our questions. So let me just stop the screen share here. And real quick, first question. Okay. So the first question that we have for our panelists, and the way we're going to do this is just, feel free to jump in and share your experience. So the first question is, what is the one thing that you love about company X, whichever company you worked at?
What if none of us just answer? What if it's just silence for 40 minutes? Can we do that as
I
well?
call on people. I'm here to monitor.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough. I thought we could hold you guys hostage.
No.
I'll go first since I broke the silence with my weird, awkward joke. This is obvious. So, okay, sorry. I'll try to make this short because I like writing about this a lot, but I think what's really interesting about internships is there's like two main like schools of thought, right? There's like clout and like what you want to do. And obviously that's a sliding scale and it's not like binary. I think one of the favorite companies I worked for purely for just like pure enjoyment was American Airlines because we got flight benefits and I was literally traveling every other weekend. I flew over 33,000 miles the summer of 2019, right before the world ended. So I think that was really cool. But obviously Amazon is amazing and I learned a crap ton. So that's my answer.
Awesome. Who wants to go next?
I can go next. So one thing I've really loved about working at software is that because it was a startup and because there were so few people there, I could literally go to the head of our backend and be like, hey, help me with this. And he'd be like, yeah, let's sit down for an hour and let's just work through it. Or the head of our marketing, or pretty much I pretty much met with the founder like at least multiple times a week, just talking and designing stuff. And it was pretty great just doing that, everyone being so open and being able to engage with everyone in the company for whatever I needed, pretty much.
Yeah, I totally agree with Dylan on that because we interacted with so many people so higher up that was a chance that you would probably get at a smaller company or startup for that matter. Another thing that I did like about the consulting company I was at is the variety of people I could meet. Like one week I met a person who just worked on airport security stuff at the Dallas airport, the DFW airport, and he was just talking about crazy stories he had there at the airport. And then the next week I'm meeting the stadium manager for the AT&T Stadium in Dallas. So it's different people that you get to interact with at a consulting company. Also really brings in like different perspectives to what you do.
I guess to add to what Dylan said about, I guess with any company, definitely at a smaller company, you get a way better experience of this. But even at Capital One last summer, even with everything virtual, I got, I think, an hour's time with the person who made Wikibuy, which was later acquired by Capital One. And, we just had a conversation about career and, natural language processing, some of his research and how he got into working at Capital One. I think the best thing you can do is just shoot out emails or Slack messages. It really, you have a lot of autonomy in that area, even if you're a software engineer working in this part of the company. And yeah.
I could go next. So about big companies, I think one of my favorite things about big companies is that, especially at Google and Facebook, it's very easy from the people I've talked to switch around roles. So it's easy to go from manager to individual contributor. And even if you're trying to look to do something completely different, that's more than likely available for you inside the company rather than transferring to a different company.
All right. One thing real quick. So I see a bunch of questions in the chat. We will have a Q&A session at the end. So we will get to these questions at the end. We won't be answering them right now. Okay. I think all the panelists went. So Pawan, do you want to ask the next question?
Yeah, sure. So we would love to know, are there any strategies that you use in school, kind of daily basis or every so often that's kind of have helped you at work in your internships?
Should we
I
just
was going to say this, but aggressive Googling, there's no replacement to that. Even at work, even at these big companies, they'll give you like all your computing power and everything you need. But at the end of the day, Stack Overflow is the savior.
Very true. I would say, so I am an ESET major, so just as a fact, I don't really get that much software stuff, but I started as somebody who really liked software and coding. And I think a lot of it is just, you are passionate about an idea and you just spend time on your computer and figuring things out. And I think that's where the majority of my skills came from.
Anyone wants to go next?
Yes, so I wouldn't say there was anything in particular, like say in an algorithms course, I wouldn't say, yes, I used this algorithm and this algorithm. I used all these things I learned in my classes. But I think what school really helps with is just teaching you how to learn, because every week in an internship, you're learning something, and every week in a job, you're going to be learning something. And it's really more about picking stuff up quickly than being able to like pull something out of your 121 class, just random knowledge, and being able to apply it, because that's, like we said earlier, all on Stack Overflow.
Yeah, so I agree with everyone previously about Google and Stack Overflow. One thing that I have learned kind of the hard way is that sometimes it's more important to go directly to the documentation rather than looking at everyone else's answers online, because you might learn something that everyone online has not been talking about. So maybe in school, instead of always like going to Stack Overflow first, maybe you go look at the documentation first, instead of always relying on Stack Overflow to have your answers.
This is operating under the assumption that wherever you're working does have documentation, which you think is guaranteed, but is not necessarily true.
It's not always guaranteed. That's right.
Especially if I wrote the code, it's definitely not guaranteed.
Oh, Shrey.
But yeah, I guess my major point was I didn't do, well, I did do most of that, but the way I started was I just went to an engineer and asked him to like explain the code to me, because I had no clue. I did not know the language. I did not know what I was supposed to do. It was a new framework. And just talking with that engineer made me learn so many new tips and tricks before even I got to like start coding. And I use those tips and tricks every day. So that's also one important fact when you do work at an internship, like make connections and learn from them, because they have had 10-15 years of experience in this, and you've had 10-15 days of experience in this. So that's the difference.
Right. Moana, do you want to ask the next question?
Yeah, so how did y'all like stay organized, and what was your #1 productivity hack? Like what tools or tips do you have for us?
Well, Shrey's gonna laugh at this, but I always keep a notepad and pencil next to me, just always. And if there's anything I need to write down, I just have it there. And so I pretty much, by the end of the summer, I had ripped out sheets of paper and just had a stack of paper that just had random notes on it that I'd keep and maybe discard if I didn't need them anymore. But just having something that you can readily put down, whether that's a physical notepad or just like a little section on your computer where you just take notes, just having stuff that you can easily look at and just kind of even remind you of stuff that you could have forgotten about, I found very helpful.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm really going next because one thing,
sure.
I always had like one intern to work with, so they usually kept note of whatever I needed to remember. I'm kind of dumb in those ways, so Dylan helped me out a lot. I also set up a lot of reminders on my watch, and I set up a lot of alarms. I think last time I counted, I have 112 alarms on my phone. I don't know what half of those were for. So I did do that a lot. One thing that I learned at software was you can actually ask Slack to remind you about things. And I did that a lot because I forgot literally everything. So Slack was like my reminder, sort of my notes taking app, and I did everything there.
Yeah, I guess the last thing I can add would be, so we would have accountability, I think is the hardest thing for everyone. So we would have our intern pods, a total of 4 interns usually. And before our daily stand-ups, we would just get on a Zoom call for an hour, just like an open room, do whatever you want. Most of us would be muted or quiet, but if anyone ran into a problem, which they often did, someone else probably had taken care of it as well.
Okay. Tony, do you want to add something?
No, it's okay. You guys could just go. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Wait, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's good. It's fine. It's cool. I was just waiting. No, it's fine. I was just gonna say really quickly, I do want to affirm that what Dylan, while we were laughing at Dylan's stuff, I do think that's actually really valid. When you said what organization skills, I thought I don't have any organizational skills, but I do just have like manic note taking. Like the only time I ever actually take notes with pen and paper is during internships, not during school, which might be just a me thing. So I definitely agree. Either have a Dylan or have a notebook. TLDR.
Okay. So the next question is, and this can be like about any specific company since you all have entered at so many. How was the interview process at any one company, and what do you think helped you stand out as compared to other candidates?
Okay, I think this is a super easy question, but it's just boil it down to 2 words, which is grind leak code, right? Like I think a lot of people would agree with this. A lot of interviews are the same, especially at Big Four, and there's so many resources out there that basically kind of boil it down to an essence of like, this is what you can expect if you go to like A, B, or C company. If it's more of like a side off company, they probably have their own process. American Airlines, the internship program wasn't really a thing. So it was just like the head of the emerging tech guy just asking me like these crazy like mathematical brain teasers. And somehow I either lucked through them or I was just like feeling smart that day. And so that's how I got that one. So yeah, I mean, sometimes it depends. Sometimes you get unlucky. But overall, if you maximize your chances by knowing a lot of leak code problems or just being really smart, that would usually help.
I totally agree with Tony regarding lead code, but all of the jobs that I've had, none of them had standard interview processes. My first internship, I interviewed for a different company, and they liked me so much that they referred me to this other company because they didn't want to hire a freshman. That's how I got my first internship. Um, so like, yeah, try out in every interviews. I think the one at software, the my coding interview was kind of okay, but the interview that I think reeled me in was talking with the founder and just understanding what he wanted and challenging him on those ideas and maybe saying, why does this work and why wouldn't this work, right? And that got me that internship. So maybe try and stand out as much as you can. That um, helps you because yeah, lead code, it's what everyone's gonna do, but standing out, it's some something that people try to do, but they, I guess, don't succeed or they don't stand out the wrong way. Maybe try focus on that as well because behavioral interviews are also as important as coding interviews.
Yeah, I agree with what everyone said about leak code, especially for big companies. It's kind of, unless you're a competitive programmer, you should probably be spending a lot of time on leak code for the interviews. Before you get the interviews, it's really important to have a really nice looking resume that your recruiters can understand very quickly. Like within 10 seconds, they should be able to see everything that they're looking at, that to know. It should also be able to go through one of those automated resume scanning programs. And for resumes, it's very helpful for you to have someone look over it that's not yourself, because you tend to not see the mistakes that might be obvious to someone else. And also on your resume, it's great to have any personal projects because then you get to talk about those during the behavioral interviews, which can be as important as the technical interviews.
Yeah, I guess I can add something. So like Tony said, you can take a lot of leak code, like everyone said, but depending on your previous experience, I actually kind of like this about computer science. You take, up 1 to up to 3, maybe 3 months just to grind leak code. And then it just comes down to how well you can do behavioral interviews. And the whole process is documented online in many ways. But I think the way I see the process is first you make your resume, and that makes the recruiter, maybe for Amazon, they'll give you an online assessment. I think Tony can attest to that. And then once you go through that, once you do well on the practice mock interview, and then they'll give you like a real interview, right? But that resume is the one thing that gets you through. I had 2 or 3 friends that we just went back and forth with our resumes for maybe a month. And we help refine it with our previous experiences or with our projects. And oftentimes these will be people that you worked on a hackathon with, or are in your classes. They can be quite sympathetic to the problems that you might have. So that's definitely helpful. And on the note of a resume parser, I put a link in the chat. I think that uses a lever. It's like, it's not supposed to be open source, but there's like a parser, and if it reads that correctly, then you should be good.
Okay. Pawan, next question.
Sure. So we would love to know, is there something that you wish you'd known or done before your internship to enhance your experience at the company?
Someone unmute yourself.
I will do it. I'm scared that like I'm gonna talk and then Trey's gonna come in and like ruin my entire life again. So it's fine, but that's okay. This is a great question. The answer is there's a lot of small things, but I think one of the bigger things is I was personally kind of afraid to reach out once I got into the quote unquote big boy leagues of like Amazon. I was afraid to reach out to my coworkers, even though it was remote. Actually, I think remote makes it kind of worse, right? But basically, like it's okay to just straight up ask somebody like what the hell is going on rather than spend 2 hours looking through documentation. Because from their point of view, they're seeing, okay, there's a guy that we're onboarding. Is it worth for him to spend like 2 or 3 hours reading, or like a 15-minute call just like asking direct questions, right? And so you have to realize that from their point of view, you're not a burden. They're the one who hired you. You have to be proactive enough to just say like, hey, can I schedule a call with like, even like a senior software engineer and just ask about the architecture of these microservices, right? And I think that's something that I wish I had caught on earlier so that I wouldn't spend as much time just like sweating and reading things. So yeah.
Totally agreed on that with Tony. I'm not gonna tear you out. I actually really like that. Um, yeah, but I missed out on my first internship, did that on my second one, and actually got it extended. So it was pretty helpful just talking to people. Another thing is if you're going to code in a language you don't know, read a bit about it. I did not, and my first week was horrible. So probably just like understand the basic frameworks, the basic, I guess, just have a look at it, look at a few GitHub pages, and you'll know what's right and what's wrong with the language. But yeah, just do that.
I can say something. So I think someone told me a while ago something that really stood out. It's at an internship, you're getting paid to learn. A lot of these opportunities are, you kind of see it as conversion for recruiters. They see it as, we want to convert this intern into full time. But I think you can really make most use of your time at a company, whatever it is, because the way you should see it is a two-way street, right? You want to work for them, and but they've interviewed you, right? And maybe in an interview you can see as an extended interview, but you're also interviewing them, right? And you can take the most opportunity to work on your team. It's kind of in contrast to school, where you can't obviously plagiarize for obvious reasons and things like that. But when you're at a company, we're not gonna, like Tony said, we're not gonna make this intern waste a bunch of time when they can just ask us a quick question, or, oh, you're having some problems. How dare you ask, the people on your team who are there to support you, right? So yeah, two-way street, and yeah, take every opportunity you can to make mistakes and learn from them.
One thing I would add to that is I didn't have a whole lot of programming experience before my first internship. So starting to look at a very large code base was kind of intimidating for me. And I think one way that I could have gotten around that is by looking at some open source projects, or even doing research in school, because in your school projects, you're starting with blank code. You basically have very little code to start with. Whereas at an internship, you usually have a lot of code that you're inheriting, and you have to learn how to add to that. So maybe looking at some projects or working on any team projects would have helped me.
Add on to what Tony said earlier, don't just reach out to your coworkers when when you like need help with something, like get to know them. They're all, well, they're probably going to be great people, and like it's going to be like a wonderful experience, and you should get to know them because it's going to make working with them a lot easier, and it's going to make working with them a lot more fun if you get to know them well.
All right.
I forgot to mention one last thing. Sorry. I know there's a lot of undue pressure, especially when things are virtual, to like get a lot of things done, to be the most productive that you can. But oftentimes, knock on wood, when things go back in person, you can take every opportunity to also just be an intern, right? Which unfortunately a lot of us weren't able to have. But when that gets better, you can also, like, when you're working, there's just way more free time than when you're at school. I think anyone can attest to that. You have your teammates, but you can also you don't have like a strict schedule, right? And oftentimes many teams, it's team by team, I guess, but many teams will have a good amount of flexibility, especially in software engineering.
Okay. Wala, do you want to ask the next question?
Okay, so how did your internship experiences help you determine your career path?
I saw the paycheck and how long the number was, and I was like, oh, okay, I think this might be okay. I might stick with this. Okay, well, jokes aside, obviously, I started pretty young. I started coding actually in like middle school or something, which is not really a flex. It's just like, that's just something that I've known for a lot of my life. It's like, you guys had friends. I had these numbers. So I did this for a while, and I always liked it because I thought it was really cool, and I could spend a lot of time thinking about it, right? And then as I got older, I was like struggling to, like find internships in high school because they're like, you're in high school, like, what are you doing? You stop applying to us. And then finally, I got my first internship freshman summer in Schneider Electric in Tennessee. And I realized what was really cool about it is that it was basically the same thing, right? It's like this thing that I had been doing like already for a lot of my life that I didn't really go like special education for, right? I didn't attend computer science classes. I was just doing this. I was also doing in a professional capacity. And I thought, it's one of those very rare things where computer science is a field that you can get into without like officially being like, in a school or doing research and doing stuff like that, right? And so that's why I always liked it.
My career path, I really wanted to go back to Google, to be honest, because it was like my dream company. And after I went to 8VC, which is the venture capital, and software.com, it really kind of moved me towards working at a startup because I got to meet these really cool people, people who are like, I guess, first employees of Palantir, people who co-founded PayPal together, and people like that. And those people just kind of influenced me of like getting in, getting dirty, getting like stuff up as soon as possible, working more impactfully is the word they used. But yeah, doing that, but also working on your own idea for your own startup and then kind of pursuing that as well. So I guess this last summer really, really helped me focus on that and made me understand the whole process of how um, startups work differently than, I guess, big tech and banks and literally any other company. And that really interested me.
So similarly to Tony, I've basically wanted to do software my entire life. And I think, ironically, I think having an internship made it more difficult for me to pick what my career path wanted to be because it just kind of opened up all these options. So like within software engineering, there's just so many potential jobs I was just unaware of that this internship with this venture capitalist company just opened my eyes to. And it's kind of a little daunting going through them and being like, hey, this one seems kind of cool, this one doesn't, but I'll try these. And it's exciting. It's very exciting to kind of think about trying all these new things, but also like, well, I got to make a choice at some point. And I think that, well, at least I am personally still making that choice.
Yeah, even a couple years into your career, you still have a lot of flexibility, especially at tech companies and movement. I have some friends who are working full time, and they tell me about aspects of companies that they didn't even know existed. Like, for example, I mentioned earlier, right? You wouldn't think Capital One, a bank, would be working in natural language processing, but they are. All of Capital One data is on Amazon. They pride themselves on that. It's all at AWS. You know, it feels very modern, and I think you can kind of be introduced to many aspects of computer science, like the rich stuff that, you know, everything from natural language processing to computational photography to, you know, artificial intelligence, all that. Yes, you're never pigeonholed.
Okay. So that's it for the questions that we had. So now we'll be taking questions from the chat. And the first one that we have here is, what did you do to get your first internship? What projects, extracurriculars did you do to help secure your first internship experience?
I like this question. Sorry, I unmuted myself preemptively. I hope that's okay, guys. This is the new meta now. So I knew a guy who knew a guy. And so I really liked hackathons, and I still do. And I like attended a couple of hackathons. One of them in Austin was my first one. And this friend who was at A&M, who I just met, brought in another friend. And then later, like 6 months later on Snapchat, he was like, oh, I'm like trying to find an internship. And I was like, let me know if you find something. And he ended up getting one and recommending me as well. And that was my first internship freshman summer, which is really hard to do. So my personal thing, or my personal opinion, is that a lot of it is just, you gotta ask around, you gotta open yourself up to all sorts of possibilities. Obviously you wanna mass apply to everything, but like your freshman and your sophomore summer, even, you shouldn't expect too much. You should just be like, if you can open a door for me, I will do whatever it takes, type thing. So yeah.
I honestly didn't have as much experience. I started out as an electrical engineer, so I did not expect myself going into coding. In fact, I hated coding when I came to A&M, but I've kind of grown to love it. Yeah, but I guess my whole thing was just like trying to get as much experience doing whatever projects I could. Um, I think my first job with Google really helped drive up my resume. I started working for Google like my first semester at A&M, remotely, I guess part-time, and that really helped drive my resume up. But the project that helped the most was actually one of them at Aggie Coding Club, where I worked on a project, and that helped me learn a lot of stacks. It made me connect with a lot of people, and they helped me, I guess, move around in my first internship.
Does anyone want to add to that? Anything?
Yeah.
Sure. So I
go ahead.
also was used to do the Aggie Coding Club back before Shrey was an officer, but that really helped me start my first project, which was Aggie Maps. It's like find the best bus route using the A&M buses, and I was able to basically talk about that project in all of my behavioral interviews, and the thing that recruiters really liked about that project was that I took it from idea to completion. It wasn't just something that like I thought of uh, in 2 weeks. I actually took a few months to work on that project. So I think that project was something that really helped me stand out.
My freshman summer, I joined an undergraduate research team, and that basically became most of my resume for the following year. And it just helped because, pretty much similar to Daniel, you just have some topic, you have some project that you do from beginning to end, and it's just so much for, especially for a freshman or a sophomore. I highly recommend joining research or Aki Coding Club.
We have 3 Aggie Coding Club officers on call with us today. Definitely check out the link. Tony put it down.
Woo, represent, woo. We're not crazy, I swear, it's just me.
Yeah.
Today's call is just filled with plugs.
Yeah, definitely check it out. So the next question, and I think these next 2 questions can be combined. So how did you get involved with Company X? Do you have any advice for reaching out to recruiters?
Okay, I could talk about big tech companies. So, what I would recommend is you apply through every avenue possible. So that could be people from your school on LinkedIn that you know personally. So you ask them for a referral during their internship. You can reach out directly to recruiters, either by emailing them or on LinkedIn. And then the third way would be applying directly through their website. During the pandemic, I know less and less recruiters are coming to the A&M Career Fair, and I see a trend to more of them going directly through their career portal. So that might be your best bet. Other than that, yeah, I think those are my biggest tips for getting the interview.
Yeah, I guess the notorious getting your foot into the door starts off again with your resume. So find a couple people that who are kind of on the same track that you are. They can be in your classes or whatever. Maybe they've done some solo projects or some hackathons as well. So once you've got that resume looking good, just follow all the formats that you can find. Maybe attend some resume workshops. That, and then like Dan said, a lot of things are going online now. My previous two experiences. Not through the career fair. And honestly, I think we're going to see less and less of that because companies also want more control over their entire pipeline. So yeah, applying through the company portals is probably the most direct way to get it, even if it feels like you're sending it into a black box, which it often does. But everyone says, oh, you only need one yes, and it is true. You really do only need one yes. And a couple of things that do help. Once you get that good resume, there are a bunch of GitHub repos and online listings. So you can just type in GitHub summer 2021 internships, and there's a whole table of not working at GitHub. Like people make just a big README with a bunch of links to many companies. So yeah, apply.
If
Yeah,
you
just
are
that.
looking,
Go ahead. No, please.
okay, so if you are looking for your first internship and you don't have as much experience, if you're an A&M student, there's a website, I forget the exact link, but it's run by the Career Center, and it gives a list of all of the companies that have hired any graduates for a certain major over the past 10 years. So there is definitely a correlation between some companies hiring A&M students over and over again. So that can be a great way for you to get your foot in the door for your first internship.
That's actually a really solid tip. I didn't know that. I was just gonna say my order of operations in my brain was always get referral. Referral is king because that, in my opinion, almost implies that you will get some sort of screening or first, interview. And then the second thing is to do an event. So the way that I got American Airlines, and this sounds kind of cloudy, but I just straight up won their hackathon. So if you could do that, that's also really nice, and they'll get your attention, and you'll get their attention rather. The third thing is, of course, apply online regardless, right? And that has happened to me before, where I've applied online and people have. And it's not a flex. What I'm trying to say is go to events, but yes, it is also a flex. So yeah, and also there's somebody in chat who really quickly, I just wanted to shout out, who said oh, I wanted to do these things, but I feel like it's late. It's really never too late. I genuinely don't ever think it's too late to start doing any of this stuff. So yeah.
I'd like to add to that. You will always have friends who are higher above in the food chain, right? You will always know some seniors, some sophomores, some juniors, even master students. They will work at some company. Reach out to them, get a referral from them, right? It's not that hard. If you're in DSC, Aggie Coding Club, we have a lot of people who have had a lot of internships. All of us are at least in one of these clubs. So reach out to them. They'll probably help you land some job. The second thing, which will never land you an internship, is spam the recruiter. Um, Also, make sure your emails are correct. Use Grammarly for your emails. I've seen so many emails where people have misspelled something, and it's just yeah, I'm just gonna delete these emails for the future. So make sure your emails are correct and don't spam the recruiter. Once in a week, it's fine. Never more than that.
Okay. So the next thing here is, how difficult is it to get an internship just after your freshman year? Where would you go to look for one in the first place, especially at these big companies? that many panelists have talked about.
A lot of companies, well, maybe not a lot, but some of them have freshman specific internships. So I know Microsoft, for example, has the Explore program, and just actually a bunch of people from A&M do it every year. And so I would just look for those, because it's just a great way to get your foot in the door. Oh yeah, so look, they're all listed. Perfect. Yeah, exactly.
I know all these because I got rejected from all of them, so it's a good time.
I think Daniel is a Google step, right? So maybe he can talk more about that process.
Yeah. So for someone with not much experience going into your first internship at these big companies, the freshman programs are definitely the way to go. They don't accept as many students as the actual software engineering internships, which is why most of the time it's better to start at a small company if you don't have prior experience. The things they will look for in the freshman programs is the level of experience you have going in. So obviously I can't say for sure, but I do think that if you have too much experience, you may not be considered as heavily for these freshman programs.
Okay. So again, I'm going to combine two questions here. So what year of college should someone start looking for internships? And maybe we can also answer where to go on campus to find internship opportunities.
Yeah, you start now. So I guess the traditional season is fall is like the recruiting season, but Visa just started recruiting early this month. There are companies that like big N companies being FANG or whatever acronym you have for it. Those big tech companies will often start scooping up talent in August to November. I know friends who have heard back from Microsoft in November, and then some who have heard back from other companies like Facebook in August, right? But often they'll be looking in that time range for the following year. And then other companies like Amazon and Facebook, all of them have the kind of ability to hire round the clock, which is amazing. There are winter internships. So that GitHub link that I sent, there's also one for winter 2021, which is winter, I think runs December to March or something. But these companies are hiring throughout the year. And again, working on your resume, if you want to get ready for this August, right, that starts today. But, yeah.
One thing I'll add on to that is definitely starting early helps. I know that Google, for example, does a rolling application stuff. So it's never too early to start. It's never too late to start. And by that, I mean, the moment that the end of summer hits and you're preparing for school, you should start Googling Google internship application, right? And see if it opened up yet or not. And should have things prepared. I mean, a lot of this is proactive stuff. One quick thing, I said 80 is rookie numbers in chat for how many applications you have to apply to. That's not true, I'm joking, but 80 is around the ballpark. I've known people who have applied to 200, right? And they keep an Excel sheet and they have the whole, did get an interview, did not get an interview. So it is part of the process. Welcome to the grind.
One thing about the 80 internships, it's very important for you not to just be cold applying, because then it's really easy for the recruiter to cold reject you. You want to kind of modify your resume, and if they have a place for a personal statement to that company, you don't just want to keep submitting that one resume you have, because you don't want a general resume. You kind of want to apply specifically for whatever position you're applying for.
Right now, if you look at it, if you're still looking for internships, a lot of startups hire starting January. So that might be an option for y'all, because they plan financial years because of funding and other things. And January is when they plan hey, we might want to have interns this year, and then they start recruiting. Just look at these forums. A lot of them just get applications from universities in San Francisco, so Stanford, UC Berkeley, probably some applications from UCLA. if y'all apply, you have a decent chance of getting in.
Okay. Next one. What resources did you guys use to refine your resume and make it stand out? I think we've kind of been covering this like throughout, and but if anyone wants to.
I have something I want to add. Okay, so what worked for me was on LinkedIn, many people post their resume to like the place directly underneath their profile picture. So what I would do is search for people who have interned at the company that I was looking at, download their resume, and then try to copy that as closely matching the format. And obviously like combining a bunch of different resumes, because that is really what's going to help the recruiter scan your email quickly. There's a reason that the resume they've posted on LinkedIn got them the job. So I think as easy as you can make it for the recruiter by making it look as similar as other people's resumes formatting wise, that's probably your best bet for resumes.
Anyone wants to add anything?
Yeah, I can share the same sentiments. I was very hesitant to use latex or LaTeX. It feels intimidating. Just find a template online and mess around with it. It's so easy. I have it stored on my GitHub, and then I would share that .text file with my friends, and they would just make PRs and stuff. It was really convenient. Gone are the days of ugly Word docs. I always found the most intimidating part was opening up that file and just spending time staring at a piece of paper that I've been looking at for 10 hours in the past week. It's not good. So yeah, definitely making that refined, and again finding a group of people who would help you with that.
Okay. If you were to spend time learning about coding yourself, how do you make them concrete when companies see it? I think this is about like personal projects.
I like
So,
this question. This is a great question. The reason why I think I made it, besides a bunch of luck, I honestly think that luck has a big part to do with it. I think you have to be really passionate about something. Like nobody's gonna want to voluntarily sit down for like 10 hours over the period of like 24 hours to work on something unless you actually like it, right? If you actually have a cool idea or you like games, I don't care what it is, but like I want to see you turn that into a project. And the moment that your eyes light up when you're talking to a recruiter and explaining what you did or what your idea is, they can feel it. They know that you're not just BSing them. They know that this isn't just another school project, that you actually care about it. And I think that's what matters most. Obviously, it being a technically sound project and not like a Hello World project also does matter. But that's how I think I kept my determination and motivation up for personal projects.
I kind of lucked out on my project. I made a project that would send student notifications about their laundry machines when they're done. We had a lot of me spamming due to that, but turns out my recruiter had the same issue in his apartment. So we just talked about the whole thing in the interview, and I got the internship. But definitely work on projects that are relatable. I think that would like work on projects that make sense, like to a lot of people in the same vicinity, and those projects might catch an eye with the recruiter.
okay. So these next few questions, I feel like they've already been answered. So maybe we can circle back, and I'm gonna move on to something that we haven't talked about. So there's this one question which I think is kind of what we were talking about projects. So just in general, were your projects like in-class projects, or did you spend time learning new technologies outside of class? How did you go about them?
Yeah, the thing that kind of sucks about CS is to make those projects, you have to spend a significant amount of time outside of classes, like spending, one of your weekends, maybe 24 plus hours on a project with other people, especially remotely. It makes it a lot harder. But I think, oftentimes projects in, your intro 121 class or engineering 102 class aren't significant enough to cross that barrier of your resume, or they might not be as exciting to you. What I find and what I found earlier, and whatever you do, don't make a to-do app. This has been made all. Just find find a Udemy course, or there's a bunch. CS50, there's edX. I mean, there's Udemy, there's Skillshare. All these people making projects with any technology you want, be it natural language processing or self-driving, artificial intelligence. These are classes that are taught formally, some of which you guys might be taking, but I think they often have little milestones in projects, or people making YouTube videos of some chess game that they made, and some game playing algorithm. So yeah, I think finding maybe your niche of projects that you like, that excite you. Maybe you were playing chess outside of school, and now you can find a way to make computers beat you, right? Or yeah, I see in the comments edX, Harvard X. Those are really nice. And so take any of those courses that excite you. There's everything from stats to machine learning. The world is your oyster.
Okay.
Can we do the worst interview question before we have to
I was
end
gonna
this?
jump to that.
I think everybody wants that. Thank you.
Yeah, you can answer first, Tony, if you want.
What? Okay. I hate that I'm like going first for 90% of this, but so this is off the top of my head. I can't name this company because I don't want to have a bad reputation with them, and they're a good company. But one of their interviewers asked me, what is your favorite OS to code Java on, or something like that? And yeah, that was my first reaction as well. I could see the heads already turning. And so my first thing was like, this has to be a test, right? There's no way that like a sane developer in their right mind would like ask me this question. So I was kind of like probing around. I was like, is this like a trick? Like, so I was like, do you mean like a particular OS, like maybe Linux, or are you saying like how I would get Java like running? He's like, no, just like, what's your favorite language, and what's your favorite OS to code in that language? And I was like, well, a lot of these languages are like cross-platform, like, and I went on for like 10 minutes trying to like cover all the edge cases for this question because I didn't know what was happening. And finally, he was just like, okay, great, thanks for the answer. And I still to this day don't know if he was just messing with me or if that was just like a test or what that was. But it was a well-known company, so it kind of scared me. But yeah.
Anyone else want to share their fun experience?
My worst interview experience was with a really well-known company. They asked me a question with dictionary sorting, and the whole time I thought they meant the Python dictionary because I was coding in Python. And at the end of the interview, the guy says, "Oh wait, no, I meant the alphabetical dictionary." And I'm like, "What were you doing for the past 45 minutes just seeing me fail?" That was my worst interview.
Yeah, I can't say I've had too bad an experience, but that's definitely on the interviewer, because 10 minutes in, they would definitely correct you, like, hey, I meant something different. Yeah.
I was going to say that I think my worst experience was actually, it was an interview after the career fair, and the interviewer asked me this very niche logic problem that you didn't solve with logic. You actually solved with like this back route using math that you pretty much could only solve if you've heard the question before. And so we kind of talked through it, and it was like a 10-minute interview, and then we left and then never heard back from them. And yeah, so that was awful.
Wow. This was a fun, I guess, last question. Any of the remaining questions that you all want to be answered, you can post them in our Slack. We have a separate questions channel dedicated to this stuff. And I hope you all benefited from this. I guess we were able to answer most of the questions. But thank you so much to all the panelists for joining us. And thank you to everyone else for attending this event. It was wonderful meeting all of you through Zoom. Yeah. All right. Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you
Good
for
night.
having it. You guys have a great one. I appreciate all your insight and time.
Woo. Thank you.
You too.
Is there like an after party? Can we leave this open? I haven't talked to a human in days.